Hello, everybody. Welcome back to High School Not So Much a Musical. In part two of our conversation with Jill and Adam, we will talk about Jill and Adam's future on the news and the negative stigma they wanted to fight. We'll get right to that after this.
This is High School Not So Much a Musical, a podcast that takes you on a ride through the peaks and valleys of a high school journey. Here are your presenters, Laudati and Ayush Agarwal.
Yeah, definitely. I think that just being open about it, making sure that a lot more people are hearing about it, makes it easier to advocate for people who do have the unique characteristic that you were talking about. I think that one thing that I wanted to pick up on was that you were talking to your employers and your other employees about the you were talking about the coping mechanisms that you were using at work. So what are some of the situations in which you will need a coping mechanism? And then some of the things that I've heard was that people have certain triggers for their ADHD. So what are some of those triggers that you experience, and how exactly did you cope with them using the coping mechanisms at work?
Yeah, so a lot of characteristics come with ADHD. Impulsiveness is one, distractions are another. So if I work in an insurance agency and I'm sitting behind a computer all day and we have some IM, an instant messaging chat with you use for all your employees, and I'm sitting there writing, or writing up some procedures or talking to a customer, and someone starts to ping me on the side, you can easily get distracted. Another thing that came up with me is I often tended to work super fast. So if you gave me a task, I would try to get it done in 15 minutes. Or if I had multiple tasks, I had a lot of trouble organizing my tasks. Which one do I do first? How do I prioritize? What do I do from there? So a lot of the coping mechanisms I have is I'm very organized, almost to an OCD perspective. Any email that comes through, I'll create folders and move it to folders. Or if I have something that needs to be worked on or a reply, I'll leave it in my inbox. I put sticky notes all over my computer monitor, so that can help me get organized and help me figure out what tasks I need to do. One of the gifts that I got with ADHD, and I'm not sure my boys have it, and I know Jill definitely doesn't have it, is multitasking. So I can multitask with the best of them. I can have a conversation with you guys right now. I can be typing something on my computer. I can be checking my phone and stay involved with all the things going on. So that's one of the skill sets that I have, but it's really just, I still work fast, but it was really just training my brain to slow down, to create lists, like to-do lists. I have tons of lists everywhere. It's really just those coping mechanisms so that I know I can stay organized.
And both our boys got that trait with writing down lists. Our oldest one is super organized. He even organized, I don't even know, his paper clips and his pencil toppers. He took a toolbox type thing and he ended up organizing everything. So he's very organized. He writes everything down. He doesn't like to use calendars, but like I said, he does the sticky notes. He's just very organized. And even our younger one, we have sticky notes all over our house. Remember your mask, remember to lock the door, just different things that he might feel anxious about, or that he's afraid he's going to forget because you just get distracted with life or just things happen. So both our boys have figured out this organization task, just because even though Adam doesn't think he has always done it, but he's always had these coping strategies that has really helped him. And the boys have had him as a great model to see, okay, so this is what dad does. All right, I'm going to do this now. And it seems to be helping.
Like what you said there at the end about the importance of having a role model, Adam, you have ADHD, so your kids were able to kind of learn from you on different coping mechanisms. So Adam, specifically for you, has there been any particular role model or person in your life who has helped guide and support you the most with ADHD and kind of combating the negative stigma?
I'd have to probably point to my friends, right? So I had my current boss now, was my boss years ago, and he really helped me mature and become, the leader that I am today at work. But it wasn't until probably a year or so ago that when I started, openly talking about it at work, that he was like, wow, now I can pinpoint all the things you do at work related to your ADHD. I had good parents growing up. I had a good family structure growing up. They've supported me what I did. You know, there was always kind of a running joke that I had a lot of energy and stuff. So I didn't necessarily have a mentor. I kind of learned a lot of this on my own, and I'm not taking credit for it, but I just learned it as I went, you know. And obviously having Jill, you know, Jill and I have been together for over 18 years now, so she's helped as well, watched me progress through my career, and it's kind of helped, especially with the boys. I can't say I was as patient as I am now with the boys when they were growing up, but I think I'm still at 43 maturing and still learning ways to deal with and cope with ADHD. So I think it's a lot self-taught, and I kind of want to spread some of that stuff I self-taught onto others.
And I am a speech language pathologist, so I do provide him with different avenues, different supports, different strategies, mechanisms that I've used or what I've learned in school and what I use as a speech language pathologist for him and for our boys. So it's really what you guys are saying, you know, mentor, support, but it's also just advocating for yourself and understanding what your unique traits are or characteristics are and being able to speak freely about them, to educate the people who are unfamiliar with the topic, because I think that's where all that negative stigma comes from, is that they're not informed. And if they're not informed, then they're going to look at it differently. But if you can inform people and spread the awareness, then I think that negative stigma sort of decreases and it turns into positive. It's sort of like what everyone says, right? Knowledge is power. So you understand what ADHD is and ADD, and hopefully people will be able to adapt their way of thinking to assist a person who might be struggling with their learning style.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree that like you just have to kind of get the knowledge out there to like people about what's going on. So like what you've done shows like the impact of turning a society framed like a negative problem into like a positive issue that people can like fight against, and make sure that people are advocating for rights and that they're advocating for like equal representation. So you think that this framing could be applied to like more issues in society the same way that you're fighting ADHD and ADD? Could the same like idea be applied to more issues?
I do think it could be. I just think it's a matter of the right person being able to freely speak about it, have the knowledge or the experience. But you don't necessarily like Adam and I are just a family who are ingrained in it. You know, we're not professionals, we're not doctors, but we're living our life and we're trying to just make our children have the best success and the most opportunity for them to succeed and, you know, have the confidence that they need to move forward in life. So I think that if someone's passionate about something, you know, whether it's OCD, what he was talking about, or depression, or any other main, either mental health or just other issues that are in society, if someone wants to speak about it, I think that you can get it out there as long as that you're willing to put the time in and understand what it really is.
And just be passionate about it.
Definitely, yeah. I think passion is like one of the most important things, because if you are passionate about a specific issue, then you're more likely to, go out of your way to specifically try to combat, whatever society is saying against that issue. And I think if you could, actually talk a little bit about where that passion comes from for you, because obviously it's, your own personal experiences with ADHD, your own family's experiences with ADHD, but are there other places where, you get that passion from?
I think the biggest thing is our passion was when we would get the phone calls or the emails that I mentioned earlier. It's hard as a parent and being a new parent when you're hoping that your child's just going to go to school and they're going to get the best grades in the class and they're going to be the most well-behaved. And when you go to your parent conference meetings, you're going to expect the best, report on them. And then you are bombarded by, your son hurdled over 2 chairs and then they slid into the circle time rug. And oh, your son just keeps knocking on their desk with the pencil, and it's distracting to the other kids. So, I think our passion came from, we were just tired of listening to all the different things, whether it was the negative responses or just, emails from teachers, that we just wanted to inform the teachers, like, listen, they have ADHD, or they might not be diagnosed right now, but clearly what you're working on and what you're doing, they're not having the success. So let's try something else. So I think the passion came from that. We wanted to make sure that they loved school and that they still like school, and that being negatively pinpointed or reprimanded all the time is going to just bring that confidence down. And, the last thing you want is someone to not enjoy school,
I'm 43 and I've lived a good portion of my life. So my passion comes from helping defend and helping raise my kids, although raising kids in today's society, like you guys know, is not as easy as it is. But my passion comes from raising them right and helping them see, and talk about things and helping others. That, it's been an incredible time writing this memoir and having people reach out to us and say, people in their 40s, 50s, and young people say, this is great. I'm so proud of you guys for doing this. We're so happy that, you're getting this out there. So that means more to us than anything.
Yeah, I think that that perfectly describes how exactly we need to take forward this issue. So one of the other questions that we asked Kevin McShawn was there any particular role model or person in any of your guys' life? So obviously for your sons, it's you guys, but for Adam, was there any person in your life who has helped guide and supported you the most with ADHD in general?
It's probably Jill, believe it or not. Like I said, we've been together 18 years, and when we got together, I was a young kid right out of college, probably still immature, still dealing with a lot of my immature tendencies. And then she probably helped ground me more than anyone. And lucky or unlucky for her, I don't know how you want to say it, as she dealt with some of the tendencies I had and my impulsiveness, and really stuck by me and really helped me. And now she's helping me more than ever. So I'd have to say it's Jill. I would like to think we're a good team together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really finding that, she's my wife, obviously, but it's really finding that just person that gets you and understands you, and that goes a long way.
There's a lot of laughs. Like I said, there were a lot of tears with the kids when they were younger until we really figured stuff out. But now there's just a lot of, you just got to laugh at some things, because if you're unable to laugh at stuff, then it just makes the situation so much worse. There's just times when you just gotta either let it go or just laugh it off and figure out a solution.
We've had some tragedies, and I always say to Jill, and we always say to the boys, life is too short, and you guys are young, so you guys will understand this too. Life is just too short, and you got to live each day. Tomorrow's not guaranteed, so we just live each day and try to help ourselves and our family and help others. That's really what we're trying to do here.
Definitely, yeah. And I actually kind of want to shift the conversation a bit. Jill, you talked about how you were actually a speech language pathologist. And I think that's, I've never heard of that career, and it sounds super interesting. So if you could talk a little bit about what a speech language pathologist is, what they do, and how you decided to become one.
Oh, yes, I would love to. I love talking about my profession. I am a speech language pathologist. I work at a special ed school. There are so many different avenues that you can go about to be a speech language pathologist. You can work with adults, you can work with children, you can work with pediatrics, you can work in specialty, you can work with children with feeding. We do so much stuff. You can work on the speech part, you can work on the feeding part, cognition, you can work in rehabilitation facilities, you can work at just private practices, hospitals, like I said, schools, public schools, and that speech language pathologist just really helps an individual. Either you provide them with the voice that they need or the communication that they need, and if a child might be nonverbal, then you provide them with a device that provides them with a voice, so that it would be an augmented device that will speak for them if they can't communicate, or if a child's just having trouble saying in the F sound and they replace it with another sound, you can do therapy for them to try and position their lips in the correct manner so that they have success in saying the F sound. We also work on pragmatics too, which is the social and just helping children. So.
Yeah, I think that's like a really good introduction to like kind of the job, and I think that we're almost like at the ending point of the podcast, and we've talked about like so much about ADHD, what people can do to like kind of fight the stigma, what you guys have done, and like how just everything has changed in your lives. And one of the things that we ask every single guest is to just kind of give some tips to our audience. We don't really phrase it anyway, just any kind of tips or general advice that you have for the high schoolers and maybe even college students listening, that would be great.
Yeah, I think, just the biggest takeaway would be, don't try to change anyone, and don't try to change a child or change your personality, but just try to help yourself or help others understand what might be going on with them. And that, that they will have the ability to think and do stuff, but they might just do it differently. And I also think that the big thing too is just make sure you advocate for yourself. And if the person can't advocate and you see someone struggling, to help them advocate. So if you have more knowledge about a situation or an illness, or as we said, even though we don't like to coin that phrase, a disability, I think the biggest thing would be is to provide with the advocacy and that support that someone might need to have the success that they need.
Yeah, advocating is huge from my perspective. Speak about it, let us know what's going on. And what I really want to read is just a quick 5 lines from the poem Xavier wrote that he ended his poem, because this really speaks of how in tune our boys are and myself are with ADHD. The ending of the poem is, it says, "Imagine how special it is to have ADHD. Imagine having endless energy. Imagine having the drive to complete something. Imagine enjoying life and not stressing about stuff. Imagine focusing on the small stuff that gets left behind. Imagine taking risks and learning from them. I can never imagine my life without having ADHD." So that's a kid that's really ingrained and proud of having ADHD and not looking at it as something that's different from someone else.
That was a really beautiful poem. And I think overall this podcast like kind of gave us a really good understanding of why ADHD is actually super positive and why it should be treated as such. And thank you so much for sharing all your experiences, Jill and Adam. I think since you all were able to talk so openly about this issues, it was like a super engaging podcast, super open, super friendly, not like just kind of talking about, what is ADHD? How is it diagnosed? Like, how do you fix it, etc. Kind of really talking about personal experiences. I think it really made it engaging. So thank you all for taking the time to come on the show. And to our listeners, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having us on the show too.
Happy New Year.
That's our show for today. Now roll the credits. High School Not So Much a Musical is hosted by Ayush Agarwal, Nitin Jaladanki, and Rishi Sinha. Narration by Samhit Padala. Music from Louis Luang Relaxation Cafe, Tune Pocket, and Infraction. If you like the show, please recommend it to your friends and family. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.